I'm talking about timber identification and some common adulterants and confusion among the. It is a versatile raw material and is being used for household as well as for heavy structural purposes. The most common and best timbers that we were using in the past were pine, devdar, rosewood, shisham, teak, sal, babul. Even now we are using the same timbers again. The rapid development and industrialization and improvement of living standards, the demand for timber is ever increasing. So this has resulted in the introduction of many uncommon and less reputed timbers in the market to meet the demand of the timber. The most common methods of timber adulteration involves substituting the original or reputed timber with lower grade, cheaper and unspecified timbers having similar external resemblance, which sometimes poses a serious problem. The mixing of timbers may be due to lack of proper knowledge of timbers, lack of standardization at various levels, misuse of knowledge of similar cheap and inferior timbers with reputed timbers. This can cause both material and financial loss to the consumer. Hence, if a timber is to be used efficiently and economically, one should know what timber is being used and for what specific purpose. Every timber, most of the timbers are actually, they have got this specified, like for every purpose, there are some specified timbers. So one should know what timber we are using it. So the importance of timber identification is to check the adulteration, misuse, illegal trade, quality assurance, and to avoid selling or buying the inferior timber in the name of reputed timber and inferior quality wood. So identification based on wood anatomy. So before knowing any timber, like what is the adulterant, how the adulteration is happening and how we can check the adulteration, one should know the method of identification. Here I'm talking about the identification based on wood anatomy. Even though previous speaker has talked, she has talked about the basis of this timber identification. I'm going to just little bit elaborate these things and how the adulteration is happening and how we can check the adulteration by studying the wood anatomy. So the wood structure is different for wood species for different species. So identification relies on the macroscopic appearance and the characteristics revealed under a microscope. Examining the cross section or the axial section, tangential and radial microtome sections are necessary for the correct identification. So here, as the previous speaker has told, general features we will be seeing, like in that weight, color, heaviness, hardness, odor, and grain. And the macroscopic is using the 10x hand lens. Here, the wood identification is based on the observation in all the three anatomical planes of the wood specimen, transverse, that is perpendicular to the stem axis, radial, that is parallel to the stem axis, and the tangential plane. So macroscopic observation is the fastest material for the first identification or the evaluation of the traded timber. But in many cases, this will not help. So this can be done only at the field level or to ascertain or to just to screen the species. Only it can be done up to the genus level. So in many cases, we have to go for the minute structure. That is, the observation has to be done under the microscope. So under the microscope, what we do is we have to study the vessel morphology, that is the size and frequency of the vessels, then fiber morphology, that is the length, width, and wall thickness, then the ray composition, pattern of parenchyma, pits, that's the type and sizes, inclusions and intercellular canals, and included phloem. So these are the characters which will be seen under the microscope. So using the all these characters or in the combination of these characters will help in identifying the minute structure or timber. So the applications of this timber identification is in the fields of forensic science, dendrochronology, dendroclimatology, paper and pulp technology, and checking the illegal trade. Okay, now we know that in the thing we can see two types of trees. One is having needle-shaped leaves, and the second one is with the fruits and flowers. So by identifying the characters, morphological character, one can easily identify what wood it is. So in the first picture, it is the devdar or the coniferous trees. The second picture belongs to the tree of hardwood. So you know that The softwood and hardwood differentiation, it's a gymnospermic tree which has got the scales like needle-like leaves. Then seeds are bare. It is not enclosed, found on squares, and leaves are as cones. Then it's an evergreen tree. Whereas in the hardwood, it's an angiospermic tree, and it contains broad leaves, and seeds are enclosed inside an ovary, usually in a fruit. And this is the seeds producing flowers plants whose seeds are enclosed within an ovary. And we should know before, like this subject especially it contains especially the woods, which can be classified as two types, that is non-porous or also called as softwood, and next one is the porous wood or also called as hardwood. So what are the main elements which are there in the non-porous and porous wood, which we will be seeing under the microscope. Here, what are the cell types? Axial types in the hardwood is vessel element, trachea, fiber. In fiber trachea and libriform fibers, axial parenchyma cells and epithelial cells will be there. And in transverse cells, ray parenchyma cells and ray epithelial cells. In case of softwood, we have trachea, axial parenchyma cells and epithelial cells. And in the transverse cells, ray trachea, ray parenchyma cells and ray epithelial cells. And this is the cellular composition of wood. Three-dimensional representation of a diffuse porous hardwood. So here we can see the round thing, which is a vessel element. On the cross section, it is seen as a tubular structure. It's a tubular structure, but in the cross section, it is just like a hollow round shaped thing. And in the rays will be seen as a spindle shaped one, and in the tangential radial section, it will be seen as ribbon shaped. So now coming to the point that confusions or adulteration among some of the important hardwoods. Whenever in as earlier one of the audience was telling that how to identify the teak which is coming from different trees, I mean different countries. But when we do the identification, we see the structure that is under the hand lens as well as under the microscope. But in case of teak, it is very difficult to identify what is the provenance or from which place it is coming. Origin of the timber, we are not able to tell, I mean, using the identification method, wood anatomy method. So here for the teak, it is the confusions or the adulterations happening with the case of acacia and then iroko, African teak. In case of sandal, which is called as Santalum album or East Indian sandal. It is adulterated with Osiris, Haldu, and then Erythroxylum monogynum, sorry, the spelling is wrong, and then champ, that is Michaelia champaca. Then bijasol. For bijasol, it is mostly adulterated with merbau or Insia species. Red sanders is adulterated, or it is not substituted. It is mostly adulterated with Anjan or the Hardwickia binata, Padok. In case of rosewood, it is Sisu and Laurel. So coming to one by one, I'll just speak. In the picture, we can see the first and second. Mostly, it is looking very, very similar. But on the external appearance, the first picture, the first one is teak wood, the second one is Acacia auriculaeformis. We can see, like after planing, both looks alike. Even the color of the timber is almost similar, and their grain pattern is also similar. But when we see the structure under the microscope, we can see that the Tectona grandis or the teak having the ring porous, it is a ring porous wood, whereas that means the early wood vessels and the late wood vessels are different here within a growth ring. The size of the vessels are different within a growth ring. And in case of Acacia auriculaeformis, we can see that there is no distinct, differentiation in the vessel size. This is the Tectona grandis or the teak description. So sapwood is distinct from the hardwood. Wood is pale yellow or grayish white. Hardwood is golden brown with often darker streaks turning to dull, deeper brown on exposure. And it has got an oily feel, which is having a characteristic odor, which is a reminiscent of old leather. And gross structure is ring porous wood, as I have told earlier. And growth rings are distinct, delimited by large early wood pores. Pores in the early wood are large, clearly visible to the eye, and they are partially filled with tyloses and occasionally with yellowish or white color deposits. And the pores in the late wood are smaller, and parenchyma is very scanty in the late wood. The transition from early wood to the late wood is gradual in the case of teak. Whereas in case of Acacia auriculaeformis, the sapwood and hardwood are different. Hardwood is yellowish brown, moderately hard and moderately heavy. They are shallowly interlocked, and it's a diffuse porous wood. So one can easily find out the differentiation, or one can easily differentiate the teak wood and Acacia auriculaeformis with the help of a hand lens. But when we see the external appearance, both woods looks similar only. So other than acacia species, discardia species, phoebe, and few foreign timbers such as Chlorophlora excelsa, African teak, which is called as iroko, and Rhodesian teak are also sold as substitute to teak due to their resemblance in color, texture, and hardness. So all these can be distinguished from teak easily using a handless. So some of these timbers are less expensive than the genuine teak, that is the Tectona grandis, but can be a good alternative also. Next is the Dalbergia latifolia, Dalbergia sisu, and Terminalia alata. So all that, by seeing their external color, appearance, and all, most of especially the rosewood and sisu and Terminalia alata also, to some extent, they'll all have the same color. But when we see the structure under the microscope, the first one, that is the rosewood structure, and the sisu, both are, in fact, they are similar even under the microscope, whereas the Terminalia alata or the laurel is slightly different color. In case of, this is in the cross section. When we compare the woods of these three species under, especially the tangential section, in the tangential section, the race of latifolia and sisu are having a similar structure. Only slight variation is in their ray size, but they have, both of them possess the gives the ripple marks. That means storage structure of the rays will be there. Whereas in case of Terminalia alata, the laurel, there is no what do you call the storage structure. This is only a uniseriate rays. Whereas in the latifolia and sisu,